Imagine a weapon so effective, so game-changing, that the enemy actively tried to pretend it barely existed. That's exactly what happened with the P-47 Thunderbolt. While Allied pilots were racking up kills and smashing ground targets, German propagandists were busy spinning a narrative that deliberately ignored its immense impact. Discover the chilling truth behind their strategic silence. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't just another fighter plane. It was a flying fortress that weighed up to 8 tons when fully loaded, making it one of the heaviest single-engine fighters ever built. 8 50-caliber machine guns lined its wings, each one capable of ripping through metal and armor. The Thunderbolt could carry up to 2,500 pounds of bombs or 10 5-inch rockets under its wings. With a top speed over 430 miles per hour at high altitude and the ability to dive faster than almost any German fighter, the P-47 dominated both the sky and the ground below. American and British pilots called it the Jug because of its massive barrel-shaped body, but there was nothing funny about what it could do in combat. The P-47 became Germany's worst nightmare on wheels and rails. From D-Day until the end of the European War, Thunderbolt pilots claimed they destroyed 86,000 railroad cars, 9,000 locomotives, 6,000 armored fighting vehicles, and 68,000 trucks. These numbers show just how devastating the P-47 was as a ground attack weapon. Pilots would spot a locomotive pulling ammunition or fuel, dive down with screaming engines, and unleash a torrent of gunfire. Within seconds, the train would explode in a massive fireball. While the P-47's guns couldn't always penetrate the thick armor on heavy tanks from above, they could destroy truck supplies, fuel tankers, and troop transports that armies needed to function. German commanders quickly learned that moving anything during daylight hours invited instant destruction from above. Beyond ground attacks, the Thunderbolt excelled at its original job as a fighter escort. When American B-17 and B-24 bombers flew deep into Germany, P-47s accompanied them, protecting them from Luftwaffe interceptors. German fighter pilots quickly discovered the Thunderbolt could absorb tremendous damage and keep flying. Its radial engine could take multiple hits and continue running. The rugged construction meant pilots could bring home aircraft riddled with bullet holes and still land safely. Meanwhile, the 8 machine guns made the P-47 deadly in dogfights, with pilots achieving an aerial kill ratio of 4.6 to 1 against German fighters. This means for every P-47 shot down, over 4 German aircraft were destroyed. These impressive combat results allowed American bombers to strike German factories and cities with growing freedom throughout 1944 and 1945. Joseph Goebbels ran Nazi Germany's propaganda machine with iron control. His job was maintaining German civilian morale and convincing everyone that victory remained certain. But how do you spin away hundreds of destroyed trains? How do you explain burning airfields and shattered supply lines? The P-47 Thunderbolt created a propaganda crisis. German soldiers knew the truth. They watched their convoys burn. They heard the roar of Thunderbolt engines during attacks. Civilians near railroad lines saw the smoke and destruction. Goebbels needed a strategy to make this devastating weapon seem less threatening, even as it tore apart Germany's ability to fight. The first propaganda tactic was simple: don't talk about it. German newspapers rarely mentioned specific Allied aircraft types causing destruction. Instead of saying, American P-47 Thunderbolts destroyed 12 trains yesterday, reports would say, enemy aircraft caused limited damage to transportation networks. The word limited did heavy lifting in these reports, even as entire German cities turned to rubble and rail lines stopped functioning. Radio broadcasts focused on German fighter victories rather than Allied bombing successes. When they absolutely had to mention Allied air attacks, propagandists kept descriptions vague. They avoided giving any Allied aircraft a fearsome reputation that might make it seem powerful or unstoppable in the minds of German citizens. This pattern of minimizing and obscuring Allied air power continued throughout the war. When censorship alone couldn't hide the truth, German propaganda took a clever approach. They reframed American air power as proof of Allied weakness on the ground. The logic went like this: if the Americans were truly strong, why did they need so many planes? Propaganda broadcasts suggested massive bombing campaigns proved the Allies couldn't defeat Germany in direct ground combat. This narrative painted the P-47 attacks as desperate attempts by a weak enemy who couldn't face German soldiers face to face. Some propaganda even suggested that relying heavily on aircraft showed American cowardice, claiming they wouldn't risk their soldiers in real combat. German propaganda also exaggerated every P-47 that got shot down. When a Thunderbolt fell from the sky, newspapers would trumpet it as a major victory. Radio announcers described elaborate dogfights where brave German pilots defeated multiple enemy aircraft. The actual numbers told a completely different story. The P-47 achieved an aerial kill ratio of 4.6 to 1, meaning for every P-47 lost in air combat, German pilots lost more than 4 aircraft. But propaganda reports flipped these ratios completely, creating an impression that Germany was winning the air war. This could have given German civilians false hope that their side was effectively matching Allied air power, even as the skies above them told a very different story every single day. No amount of propaganda could change what German soldiers experienced daily. Truck drivers knew that traveling during daytime meant probable death from above. Tank crews understood that P-47s would hunt them relentlessly during any movement. Railroad workers lived in constant fear, knowing that P-47s could appear without warning and turn their train into an inferno. Letters home from soldiers began telling the truth that newspapers wouldn't print. They described the terror of hearing Thunderbolt engines, the devastation of watching comrades die in strafing runs, and the hopelessness of fighting an enemy that controlled the skies so completely. By late 1944, a massive gap existed between official propaganda and lived reality. German radio might claim minor air raid damage while entire neighborhoods lay in ruins. Newspapers might report transportation working smoothly while soldiers waited days for supplies that never arrived because P-47s had destroyed the trains. Civilians could see the smoke from burning facilities on the horizon, yet propaganda insisted everything was fine. This disconnect eroded trust in official information. When people can see the truth with their own eyes, propaganda loses its power to persuade. By 1945, the propaganda about Allied air power became impossible to maintain. The P-47 and other Allied aircraft had achieved total air dominance over Germany. German forces couldn't move without facing attack. Supply lines were severed, cities burned. Research shows that by late 1944, German morale reports revealed sharp and merciless criticism of leadership, with Allied air superiority featuring heavily in complaints. The gap between propaganda claims and lived reality became so obvious that even the most dedicated believers started questioning official narratives. The P-47's impact on German morale went beyond just physical destruction. It proved that the regime had been lying all along about Germany's chances of victory. When soldiers and civilians realized they'd been deceived about something as obvious as Allied air superiority, they questioned everything else they'd been told. The P-47 Thunderbolt story reveals how propaganda fails when reality becomes undeniable. German spin doctors tried every trick to minimize this powerful weapon's impact, but you can't hide burning trains and destroyed cities forever. The Thunderbolt helped win the war, not just through physical destruction, but by exposing the lies that held the German war effort together. If you found this story fascinating, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what World War II topic you want explored next. Subscribe to stay updated on more incredible history that textbooks often overlook. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.